Hey there, it's your boy Foxy, back for more relationship stories. I caught my mom cheating and she's trying to convince me my dad knows. Plus update. Original post. I'm female 17, and until a couple of days ago, I thought I lived in the perfect family raised by my two loving parents in their early 40s. My dad is an engineer who has been traveling a lot for the past year, and my mom is in healthcare taking shifts in different times of the day. My laptop broke down, and I asked to use mom's laptop to finish a school project. When I was working, I saw a couple of WhatsApp web notifications pop up with raunchy messages. I tried not to pay attention until I realized these were from Pete and not from Dad. I could not believe my eyes, and I felt like throwing the laptop in the trash and pretend I never saw it. After I collected my thoughts, I went back to the chat, and from what I can see, they met at least 4 to 5 times, starting just a couple of months after my dad began traveling. I took photos of the chat history and went to my room trying to process. I couldn't even finish my homework. From the messages, they were supposed to meet tonight, and lo and behold, just half an hour before the meeting time, she passed by my room to let me know she's going to work. The next day, I gathered my courage to confront her. I think she knew that I discovered her, because the new chat messages have been read by me, and I think I left the chat tab open before returning her laptop. I told her I knew what she was doing and that it was wrong. She sat me down and tried to calm me, but I told her there's no way I would be calm, and she said I will understand once I hear the explanation. She told me that she and Dad agreed to open their marriage shortly after he began traveling. To be honest, I didn't fully comprehend, so she explained what that entailed. She told me it was completely physical, and she would never have feelings for anyone other than my dad. The messages I read support this, as they were only about bedroom fun, and that they agreed to only do it if one of them is away. She closed by saying that this is adult stuff agreed between two loving adult spouses, and I should stay out of it. I was dumbfounded and didn't know how to react the whole time. So I started reading online about open marriage, and this is how I found this subreddit. It was consistent with what she said, but it just didn't make sense to me. I don't believe my dad would agree to this, as his views are generally more conservative. Also, when he's away, he's more present with us than her, as he video chats with us or plays online games with my two brothers almost daily. In yesterday's call, I asked him why he has to travel a lot, and he said this is hard, but it is necessary to secure college money for me and my brothers. He assured me that it will change soon. I asked him how can he bear being away from his wife for almost half of the year, and he said since their relationship foundation is strong, temporary separation only causes them to miss each other more and value the limited time they have with each other. He asked me if everything is alright, and I told him not to worry. I honestly don't know if I should believe her. Should I ask her for proof for the open marriage claim? I am mortified to tell Dad, but is that my only option to confirm? I don't want our perfect family to be torn apart, but would it be fair to Dad to keep this secret? I've been crying nonstop since this revelation, and don't know what to do. Now for the top advice before reading the update. Tell your dad. If he already knows, then he won't care. Or better yet, tell her you need to hear it from your dad. Her reaction will tell you everything. Put a deadline on it, and if you haven't heard it from him, then tell him yourself. Even beyond this, if her dad knew about it, then it would make sense for the mom and dad to speak with her about it together, or for the dad to bring up the topic after being notified by the mom that the daughter knew. I have a few friends who do this, and the primary thing is transparency for all involved, and the daughter is involved now. This shouldn't have been a mom-only conversation, and that's precisely why it feels like a secret. Tell the dad and he'll explain his side of it if he's agreed to it. From his explanation of why he's off traveling, it sounds like he's fairly communicative with his children when it comes to hard questions. Tell your dad. It might be embarrassing for him, but if it is an open marriage, they mess this up by not being discreet enough. If it's not, he needs to know. And if it is, there's a good chance that your dad already knows that your mom messed up by being indiscreet. If he doesn't know that, they're not communicating the way they should be in an open marriage. A kid finding out this way should be a DEFCON 1 incident, and your dad should already have been told by your mom. Exactly. If what mom is saying is true, then your dad should already know what you discovered, and ideally would have approached you to alleviate your worries. Instead, he inquires with you if everything is okay because you're more inquisitive than normal. You're in a tough position, OP, but tell your dad and then let the adults figure it out. This is not your burden to bear. And now for the update. I thought this would be a good time to update you about how the situation progressed, but it'll be a long post. Reading through your responses, there were a lot of people recommending to tell my dad, and others to keep to myself out or talk it out with mom. It took me a lot of time to think and decide that I want to somehow bring it up with my dad, but that I wanted to wait to do it in person. His next home visit was in 5 days after the original incident. And while waiting for that, I was really uncomfortable with my mom and was thinking twice about any move she makes. She tried to play it cool, open conversations, or suggest going out, but I just tried to avoid her. Even if my dad did know, I was subconsciously treating her in a cold manner. This might have contributed to what would happen next. On the night before my father's arrival, it seems Mom broke down. She came into my room when I was about to sleep and asked if we can talk. She started to talk about generic things and how hard it was for her to be almost a single mom for the past year with 2 teenage boys, and thanked me for helping out with that. Now I started to see her tear up while bringing up that she might not have been completely honest about the open relationship thing. Long story short, according to her, she suggested to Dad a while ago to open the marriage, but he didn't give her a definite answer. Rather, that he will think about it and get back to her. She said that she asked to revisit, but he keeps changing the subject. So, no agreement from my dad that was clearly established. Now at least I know what to expect when I approach my dad. By this time, she's completely sobbing and trying to guilt-trip me about the consequences of disclosing the whole information to him. I felt sorry for her and told her the right thing to do was to come clean with him, but she said she doesn't have the courage to do it. I said that I will do it if she doesn't. She said she'll think about it, and we both went to bed, not that I could get any sleep that night after this. My dad arrived the next afternoon. Earlier that morning, my mom sent in the family chat that she had to take an emergency shift, won't be back until the evening, and apologized profoundly. In the private chat, I asked her what the hell she's doing, and she said she's not ready to tell him and needs more time to find the courage. I told her that I don't think I can hold it and act normal around him, so he most likely will find out from me if she doesn't do it tonight. She sent several crying emojis, then gave me the go-ahead to talk to him and told me to update her if it is safe for her to come back home after I talk to Dad. I don't know what she meant, as my dad was never the violent type. Over dinner, my dad was visibly displeased as Mom never takes shifts during his arrival. When we were alone, after having a lot of small talks, he was telling me that one of his co-workers is getting married next week, so he'll try to stay around to attend that. I used this as transition and told him that I came across the term open marriage. I told him that after hearing and reading about it, I asked Mom what she thinks of it, and Mom told me it would be ideal for her situation, then asked him what he thought about it. He was taken by surprise. He said he doesn't believe in polygamy, another term I just learned, and that if a couple feel the need for it, they should address the issue that makes them feel that way, and if this issue cannot be resolved, then polygamy would not be the answer. I asked if Mom asked him for an open marriage. He said yes, but that he refused on the spot. After that, he promised her that he'll ask to take a local position, kind of a demotion for him, as he didn't know this is how she felt, especially since he didn't take this job in the first place until she was okay with him traveling. He was actually just approved to move back to our city and will start the new job after the new year. He was planning to surprise my mom with the news. I asked him when was the first time they talked about this open marriage proposal, and he assured that it was only one talk that happened around 5 months ago. This is definitely after the time my mom first met Pete. He started to pressure me about what's going on, but I was able to get out of the conversation as I needed some alone time to make up the two sides of the story. By looking at the messages dates, apparently my mom started seeing this guy, not sure if they hooked up initially or not, then asked to open the marriage to give her legitimacy to sleep with him. When my dad refused, she did it anyway. I was boiling and couldn't think straight. I messaged her to please come home and that everything is fine. Then I messaged Dad screenshots of her conversation with Pete, then I came here to write this update. I really don't care about what happens next and won't write another update. Whether they separate or not isn't important to me anymore, as I know life won't get back to what it was anyway. The important thing is that I made peace with me carrying this burden. It makes my blood boil when a cheating parent warns the kid about the consequences of them telling the other parent the truth. The child is not the one responsible for those consequences. They are the ones who broke the marriage. The child only told the truth. My dad told me he'd been cheating on my mom for 10 years before they separated, but not to tell her because she didn't know. I was 13 at the time. To this day I have an issue with trust. It lasts forever. Here's the thing, sometimes there is consequences for the kid too. My dad caught his mom cheating, and when he told my grandpa, he exploded on him, and everyone blamed him for ruining the family. Did he actually ruin the family? Of course not. He was just a young teen, trying to do his best in a crappy family. The family was already ruined, but try telling that to a guy who was treated horribly for years because he was just trying to do the right thing. I have my own traumas from my parents' infidelities, but at least no one beat the crap out of me for it. Yeah, I was the one who blurted out my mom's infidelity. Suddenly I was the evil person breaking the marriage up. That poor kid. I'm a mother and I can't imagine gaslighting my daughter the same way. So unforgivable in terms of selfishness and self-interest. And using your kid to break it to your husband that you're cheating. I mean, I know I'm a coward and horrible at conflict, but Jesus. That takes avoidance to a whole other dimension. Doesn't it? When my marriage broke down, we never brought my daughter into it, we put her first. Like you're supposed to do. That mother doesn't deserve the title. What a cowardly, horrible person. Parents, if you want to cheat on your spouse, that's one thing. If you try to involve your kids, that makes you a crappy parent. This poor kid is in knots because his mother is a coward. Honestly, even if the kids don't know about the affair, I consider cheating being a bad parent. Children aren't just collateral damage when a parent cheats, they are direct victims. A cheating parent betrays the family, not just their spouse. They are putting their children's home life at risk and are taking some of their time and attention away from the children to give it to the affair partner. Plus, keeping an affair from the children probably involves lying to the children depending on their age, like where the cheating parent is when they are actually seeing their affair partner. In cases like this post where the child is directly dragged into it, it's more obvious and directly bad parenting, but either way. Last story. My husband, 41 male, said he is in love with my sister. I'm 36 female. Plus mini update. For reference, we have been together for 15 years, married for 8. A couple days ago we had a family gathering. It was nothing out of the usual. We like to hang out on Sundays once a month to catch up with each other and to let the kids hang out. All good things. The last few gatherings I've noticed that my husband has been eyeing my sister, 23 female, and not paying as much attention to me. I tried to ignore it and respect their friendship. This time they were all over each other, hand-holding, cuddling, stuff like that. And I was too in shock to say anything in the moment. When we got home and tucked the kids in for bed, I told him we needed to talk. He immediately broke down crying, saying that he was in love with my sister and to please forgive him. He said he has been in love with her for 2 years. I couldn't do anything but leave the house to go on a drive because I didn't want him to see me crying from how much he hurt me. My husband was calling and texting me nonstop until I came home at around 1 in the morning. I told him I needed space, and since then he's been sleeping on the couch. We have only talked when it involves our kids. I don't know what to do. We have 2 kids together and a very settled life. We are friends with all of the same people and share finances. I know I need to get a divorce lawyer, but where else do I go from here? Now for the top advice. So did he meet your sister when you two first got together? When he was 26 and she was 8. This whole situation is wrong for a million reasons. That was the first thing I took note to. He's known her since she was a little kid, and he's been in love with her since she was 21. What the heck, dude? And I use quotations because no, he's not. He wants to bang her, that's what's up. Now that I think about it, OP started dating him when she was 21. Wonder if the sisters look alike. Still, you can't come back from this. How do you come back from this? Yup. The grooming was the first thing that jumped out at me because of the ages. What a piece of trash this guy is. You can't go back from here. He's disgusting. He's known your sister since she was 8 years old. I would see a lawyer and start planning a future separate from him. He's holding her hand, cuddling. Have they slept together? Okay, the fact that he is in love with someone alone would tell me the marriage is over. But it's your sister. Divorce is the only option here. But can we talk about the deeper issue? Your sister is half his age. He's known her since she was 8, and he's been in love with her for years. You mentioned that they're very cuddly and whatnot. I legitimately think grooming was involved, and you need to talk to both your sister and your parents. I don't know if she's actively having an affair, but if not, she needs to know what is happening here. Contact a divorce lawyer immediately. In a situation like this, you need to be one step ahead of him. There is no saving this marriage, and why would you even want to? And don't let him give some twisted version of the truth. If you have mutual friends, you need to make sure they know what is happening. If they take his side knowing everything we know, they are not the sort of people you want in your life. I am so truly very sorry you're going through this, but please be sure to contact the lawyer first thing. And whatever you do, don't let this monster manipulate you into thinking there's anything normal about what is happening here, or that he deserves another chance for the sake of the kids. Edit. Sorry for the lack of replies, but I have been reading them and they have been so helpful. I have temporarily gone to my mother's house with my kids, and while I've been here, I have been looking at divorce lawyers in my area and a therapist for myself and the kids. I can't stand looking at my husband right now, and I still need some time to process this. I'm going to try and get some answers out of him and my sister in a couple days after I've had time to collect my thoughts. I can't believe the best years of my life were stolen like this. Hey there, it's your boy Foxy, back for more relationship stories. Am I wrong for reporting my nephew to the police after he stole and damaged my car? I'm 22 male, and I'm the product of an affair. My dad is about 25 years older than my mom, so all three of my siblings from him are 17 plus years older than me. I didn't have a relationship with that side of the family for majority of my childhood, but my dad and grandparents often sent money, holiday cards, birthday gifts, etc. I'm a lot closer to them now and had good relationships with all of my siblings, nieces and nephews until this happened. I own a 1976 Corvette Stingray that was gifted to me by my maternal grandpa when I turned 17. I've built this car up from a roller and it's my most prized possession. I went out of town for 2 weeks for work and left my car in my paternal grandparents' garage. I don't like keeping it at my place when I'm away for long because I don't live in the best area. I've done this since my freshman year of college and there has never been any issue until now. When I got back in town, I immediately went to my grandparents' house to pick up my car, and there was a big dent and a lot of paint missing off the side of my car. It looked like someone sideswiped it. I asked them what happened, and they were confused. When I showed them, they were as shocked as I was. They told me that my nephew Kevin, 25 male, had been messing around in the garage the previous weekend, but they didn't see him take the car at all. We checked their camera system and sure enough, he had taken my car. I tried to call Kevin but my number was blocked, so I called my brother and told him what Kevin did to my car. He said he'll ask him about it and recommended a body shop for the estimate and repair. When I got the estimate back, there was $3,700 in damages. I told my brother the estimate and he said that the estimate was ridiculous and that the damages weren't that bad. I told him either he or Kevin had to pay for it to get fixed or I'd be contacting the police. I gave him 3 days, and he didn't pay me, so I filed a police report and gave them the videos of him taking my car. Kevin was arrested at work and my brother was pissed. He called me going off about how I ruined Kevin's life over a car and said some threats. My sisters and dad have been calling and texting me asking me to just put the family first and drop the charges, but I don't want to. Am I wrong? Now for the top comments. Nope, he stole your car. You offered the option that did not include involving the police, which was him taking responsibility for the damage he did. Ultimately, they all made their own choices. The fact that they didn't believe what the consequence was doesn't mean anything. Not the idiot, and if you were to file any sort of claim at all, you'd have to file a police report. To those asking you to put this aside, say, take up a collection, put some skin in the game, get it covered, and I will. But I am not accepting damages to my car to do this kid who cared so little for me and my property that he was willing to steal and inflict the damages. You want to be mad at the kid. I am not paying for this and I am not accepting the damages. I didn't want to go the insurance route because they'll raise the rates, but it's looking like I'll have to. My insurance is already pretty expensive since I'm under 26 and on my own plan with 2 cars. Oh, I totally agree. Path of least resistance is simply for them to pay the bill. But absent that, file the claim. However, it is highly likely that the insurance will subrogate against Kevin, as in sue him for damages they paid, and it will be a lot more than the actual damages because they are going to cover all of their administrative costs, plus legal fees and court costs. So, $3,700 might look more like $15 or $20K. So, I'd advise them one last time that it's not going away. Now, I can't speak for the problems that this might cause you and family, but you should at least think about it. Ironic how your nephew is 3 years your senior, but lives up to every bit of the stereotypical nephew, being irresponsible, privileged, and alienated from reality. Family or not, a man 3 years older than you stole and damaged expensive property from you, returned it without fixing it, and expects there to be no consequences. Not wrong. Seems like they're using family as a convenient excuse when real family would never act that way. Next story. Am I wrong for not letting my husband move us into a tiny house? My 29 female, husband 31, has been getting into tiny homes for the last few years. Watching videos and shows about them, reading about them, helping his friends move into them, the works. I thought it was just a general interest, but it seems like it's gotten to be more. I own our house outright. I bought it a few years ago before meeting husband with a combination of savings and the inheritance I got when my grandmother passed. My husband is not on the title. This is important because a week ago, my husband came home with a realtor's info. He was going on about getting rid of all our stuff, selling the house, buying a tiny house and some land, everything. He said the realtor would be there for an assessment the next day. I immediately stopped him and made it clear this was not happening. He did not have my permission to sell the house. He was not getting rid of my things, though he can do whatever he wants with his, and I am not living in a tiny house. I'm sure some people love it like his friends do, but his friends' wives and children are all miserable. They have no privacy, had to get rid of a lot of sentimental items. The kids are always fighting because they're on top of each other. I refused to do that. And I told him I refused. He got super angry and said he was making the best decision for the family and that I would get used to it. I reminded him that I owned the house, not him, and he could live in a tiny house if he wanted to. I would be comfortable here. More arguing, and he left to go stay with one of his friends. Some friends agree I'm in the right. That tiny home living isn't for everyone, and I would be miserable living like that since I enjoy my space, privacy, and sprawling. Others have said that he can't live his dream without my help, and I'm selfish for not at least giving it a try before shutting it down. Am I in the wrong? He left the house to go stay with his friends. Where? Do tiny houses have guest rooms? Lo, not the idiot. Maybe suggest that he gets the tiny house and some property for it, and you use it for weekend getaways or something. Where he can sample the lifestyle by putting a garden shed in the backyard and living there full time. That should settle his hash. I mean, that's a far better idea than, well, just try it for a while to see if you like it, like OP's friends are suggesting. If she doesn't like it, then what? Does she go back to her house that she no longer has, with all her belongings that she also no longer has? Yeah, and tiny houses have no resale value. Not wrong. It is very freaking weird that he arranged everything, including setting up an appointment for a realtor to come by the next day, without so much as a discussion. Something is seriously wrong here. But he's making the best decision for the family, and she should get used to it. Sounds like he is getting into or starting a cult. Not wrong. Am I the only one that thought he's got secret debt and is hoping the house sale would benefit him? I would not want to live in a tiny house. I like my space. Agreed. I think OP needs to discuss his finances with him and find out his motivation for the tiny house. Next story. Am I wrong for refusing to invite my twin sister to my wedding? So, I'm going to try keep a really long story concise as best as I can. I female 28 and my twin sister Vicky were born to a teen mom who raised us the best she could, but lead us both to having very different ways of dealing with abandonment and an unstable home life. My mom has a very strained relationship with Vicky since when she was 17, she started doing many different substances, partying, alcohol, and smoking. I, being her sister, always tried my best supporting her, as my mother did, but I was more a best friend, whereas my mom was the one to force her to sort her life out, rehab, etc. I, on the other hand, turned out to be very obsessed with having control and structure in my life, which has made it very difficult for me to maintain romantic relationships, as I can be controlling and paranoid with abandonment. Cut forward to when I went to uni, Vicky found herself in a very bad toxic relationship and practically cut off my mother, which severed their relationship entirely. She eventually got pregnant and gave birth to my nephew in my second year at uni. After struggling with romantic partners all my life and having very short-term boyfriends, I met my ex-fiancé, let's call him Dave, who I genuinely thought I'd met the one. During this time, Vicky had broken up with her toxic ex and was now a single mother, so me and Dave would have her and my nephew over most weekends. I, however, fell pregnant, and a year after my daughter was born, Dave proposed. I had never been happier for starting my family. We decided to wait a year to get married and genuinely enjoyed our new family life. However, one weekend I decided to go see my mother and spend the day with her and my daughter, but we came home early since my mother became busy. When I arrived home, I saw Vicky's car outside, which wasn't unusual, and went inside. Nothing would have prepared me for what I would find. Vicky and Dave were alone together in my bedroom on my bed, and it seemed like the deed had already been done. I went straight to packing for me and my daughter and left. I gave Dave no chance for excuses and cut both of them out of my life entirely, except for allowing Dave visitation to our daughter. Jump forward 3 years, I have barely spoken to Vicky except for when she pops back up into my life to apologize or explain. But I don't care. There is no excuse she could give me. I am now engaged to my beautiful fiancé Matt, and he loves my daughter and me more than I could ever imagine. Although my mother is now begging me to invite my sister to my wedding coming up in June, saying to put the past in the past, since my mother has been able to forgive her and mend their relationship. I refuse, which has caused tension. She's telling me this may be the only way to fix our bond, and for my daughter to have her aunt and cousin back. But I still refuse, so am I wrong? Now for the top comments. Majorly not in the wrong. Your sister made her bed, slept in it with your man, and had no remorse. If anything, your life would be better without her in it. Your sister made her bed. It was actually OP's bed, and it doesn't sound like sis made it, quite the opposite probably. Lol, so true. Mom needs to understand that now is not the time to start insisting OP invite a strange sis. It's her wedding and she doesn't need to deal with all of this nonsense. If mom wants to raise this after the wedding and honeymoon are over, then that might be more acceptable, but she shouldn't get her hopes up about any reconciliation ever. Not wrong at all. And not everything can be fixed. Your sister did the ultimate betrayal. You would not invite an ex-friend who did that to you to your wedding. Just because you share DNA with your sister doesn't change that. Your mother has a fantasy that all her kids will get along and will go back to the way it is. Your mother will never stop bothering you on that issue. I don't blame you. I would not invite her either if I were you. There is no excuse for what happened. Once again, not everything can be fixed. Instead of worrying about this, have a great time planning your wedding and getting married. Thank you for this. I've been feeling guilt due to it always being my mother and sister most of our lives, and now that's all changed. I don't want her in my life and have relatively moved past the whole situation, but it's my mother I don't want to upset. I'm more than a little appalled that your mother chose this to be the act that mended her fences with your sister. All the choices your sister has made that hurt your mother incidentally, and the one your mother chooses to stop holding grudges over is the targeted betrayal against you. That's freaking low. Last story. Would I be the idiot if I opt out of Thanksgiving with my parents because my brother and new wife, who left me out of their wedding, will be there? My brother and I are 8 years apart. I'm older. Since he was about 12, I have lived in another state. We aren't close, but we hang out a few times a year, and it's easy and fun. I recently moved to the same city as him and my parents. I envisioned us getting closer, but it never really happened. He's the king of I'll call you tomorrow with zero follow-up. It hurts my feelings, but I've accepted it and take what I can get. He got married this past September. I was told that there was no wedding party because his wife's family is too big for her to make a choice, and she didn't want to leave people out. I was given instructions to get a gray suit and that I'd be given a blue tie for pictures. The day of the wedding, I was hanging out in the men's dressing room, and I saw that my brother has a gold tie, and that his best friend has a gold tie, and that his old bandmate has a gold tie. Odd, but I didn't think too much of it. The ceremony started and I was sitting in the audience. Lo and behold, the music starts and there's a procession. My brother's 2 gold tie friends walk in and line up on stage left, and his wife's sister and her husband walk in and line up on stage right. The non-existent wedding party. At this point I have an almost out-of-body experience. The ceremony was a blur. After the ceremony, we took pictures, which means I took one picture with my brother and that was it. I spent the cocktail hour in a stall in the bathroom, embarrassed and hurt. I made it through dinner okay, and instead of cake, my brother had made a ton of his specialty cookies for dessert. I'm allergic to the recipe as is, but with a simple tweak I can have them. He didn't make any for me, or even warn me this was happening so I could bring my own dessert. Anyways, I left the second dancing started, and a week later sent the newlyweds a letter saying basically, I thought things would improve once I moved here, but this wedding has shown me that we don't have a relationship outside holidays at mom and dad's house. So let's just keep it real and I will see you there. Being disappointed all the time isn't healthy for either of us. The problem is that Thanksgiving is upon us, and not only will they be at my parents' house, but they are bringing a couple of friends with them, so I will be really outnumbered and uncomfortable. Would it be wrong of me if I opt out for this one year, stating it's too fresh of a wound for me and I'll see y'all at Christmas? No, you don't need to go. But your brother did nothing wrong. You do not need to put siblings in the wedding party just because. He had the desserts he wanted for his wedding. Your allergies are bad for you, but don't affect wedding desserts. But your brother did nothing wrong. He flat out lied to OP about there not being a wedding party. His brother didn't have to put him in it, obviously. But to outright lie and say that they weren't having one, rather than saying we aren't close enough for you to be in the party, is a total D move. Especially since he knew his brother was going to be at the wedding, and see that he intentionally lied. Of course OP felt humiliated. His brother didn't even have the decency to tell the truth. I feel like there's something missing here. We recently planned our wedding and we never had to tell our siblings that they weren't in the wedding party. If we didn't invite them to be a part of it, then their assumption was that they weren't in the party. I feel like a good reason for a bride or groom to explicitly tell someone that they aren't in the wedding party, or if there is no wedding party, is because that person is asking about being part of the wedding party. If OP asked his brother about it and couldn't take no for an answer, then I can see why the bride or groom would tell him there is no wedding party. Why would the OP feel humiliated? It's not like the bride or groom announced to everyone that there is no wedding party, and that's why the OP is not in it, and then when there was a wedding party, everyone was like, haha OP, you're not in the wedding party. Everyone sucks here. Brother shouldn't have lied about there not being a wedding party. OP needs to stop trying to force a relationship with brother that they don't have. Brother didn't want you in the wedding party because you're not close. He didn't make you your own special cookies at his wedding because his wedding doesn't revolve around making sure you have a dessert. The letter to the newlyweds was pettiness overkill, but hopefully you mean it and you finally accept that you can't force a close relationship just because you want it. That makes sense, me trying to force it. I guess it's hard to take that your brother doesn't actually care. The letter was more about the last 2 years of him repeatedly and blatantly blowing me off. It wasn't mean, it was just acknowledging that we have no friendship, and the wedding made it evident to me, and let's not pretend to be friends, because getting blown off all the time is taking a toll on me emotionally. Not for nothing, my entire family feels him pulling away, and acting frankly like someone we don't recognize. He used to be sweet and considerate, now he's angry and selfish all the time. It's bad enough that we've had serious conversations about him maybe having a brain tumor. The personality flip over the last 5 years has been overt and concerning. Dude, he's just not that into you.